Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today's January 2nd. I am in Hilo, Hawaii for one more day. Flying back tonight, should be back at my house doing the briefings by tomorrow here. Still a little bit under the weather, but anyway, let's just dive right into the forecast. You can see the low pressure center off here, the cold air aloft, best dynamics into California, but it is spreading some snow and some precipitation up across the Pacific Northwest. And then we'll be looking at the pattern change, some colder air spilling out across the Gulf of Alaska. Potential prolific snowmakers here for some of the mountains of the Pacific Northwest. We're going to be diving into those details here as we go through the video this morning, and we'll take a look as always through the extended to see if any chance of that Arctic air might get down into the Pacific Northwest in our future. And if you missed this yesterday, warmest December ever here for SeaTac, Olympia, Quileute. Quileute demolished its record set back in 2014 here, so pretty interesting stuff. You weren't imagining it was extremely warm during the month of December, but we're going to cool things down a bit here through January, it looks like. And just a heads up for this, we're probably getting rid of wind advisory, special weather statements here, and they're going to use more plain language and try to use some better forecasting technique. But we'll see how that unfolds here as we go through the 2024 year. And looking at the pattern change coming up Friday into this weekend here, we're going to have some interesting mountain snows incoming with some of these storms here as well. Maybe even a little bit of lower elevation snowfall for some areas, especially east of the mountains there. We're not looking at any lowland snow for Seattle, Portland, or Vancouver, BC just yet, but we'll take a look at the extended forecast for that as always we go through the video here. And this is just a heads up through tonight, tomorrow morning. It does include Redmond, Oregon here for some very light freezing rain potential out there. As you guys know, it doesn't take much to make things slick, but just a heads up for that. Now, taking a look at the GFS. So this is the storm system off the coastline as we speak. Now, we're scrolling through here today, and you can see some of that snow coming up across the Cascades of Oregon, Washington, into western BC a little bit there. And then that system kind of slides through, and another weak impulse moving through on the day Thursday. A little bit of mountain snow associated with that. But then a better storm system is going to be rolling through here as we go through Friday afternoon and evening. Check it out. This is going to bring some prolific snow amounts to the Cascades of Washington, Oregon. Check it out all the way on through this weekend before that system finally slides off to the southeast. And then another storm system starts rolling through here the early portion of next week. And yeah, we're going to have some chilly air around and some powerful systems trying to drive in here. And we could really start to pile up some of the snow across the Cascades. We'll take a look at some of those totals here in a moment as well. Now, taking a look at the upper levels, we got Alaska, here's Washington, and again, there's our storm system off the coastline here. That one mainly diving down into California here, but then you can see the Gulf of Alaska gets rolling, and it starts to bring some cold air back into the area here, and that's what's going to be our prolific snowmaking potential here as we go through the weekend. And then we're going to continue to try to throw some cold air back down into the Pacific Northwest here, and again, another interesting storm as we go through the early to midweek period coming up here. So yeah, hopefully things line up right and we can really play catch up here and try to bring that snow to some of the Cascades and, you know, western BC. We are below average so far this year as far as snowfall is concerned. So definitely glad to see this pattern emerging here, and I'm hoping that we can get this snowfall out of these systems here, because El Nino can cut things off pretty quickly here, and I'm a little concerned if we don't get much snow out of these next few systems here that we might really start to get below average once we get on into the later winter and the early spring months here. But getting a little bit ahead of myself here, because it does look pretty good over the next couple weeks as far as mountain snow. Now, taking a look here at the European as of yesterday, last night actually here, and you can kind of see that system slide down into California, and then that impulse moves through Thursday. But then you can really see this cold air spilling out over the Gulf of Alaska here, and there's going to be even some wind potential. Some of these low pressure systems are packing quite a punch, powerful gradients on the south side as these launch in towards the coastline here, and again, prolific snowmaking and some locally windy potential with some of those storms. Now, we're taking a look at the Gulf of Alaska here, and we're at 500 millibars, 18,000 feet, and you can see the cold air associated with that system driving down through California there. Then you can see the really cold air start spilling out over the Gulf of Alaska here. Classic mid-latitude cyclone formation zone right there. Going to be driving these in somewhere between western BC and western Oregon here over the next week to 2 weeks. As you can see, very cold air spilling out there. So that's what's going to try to get the snow machine going here for a lot of the Cascades. Now, taking a look here, I want to just briefly touch on that wind potential here. We could have a couple sneaker systems rolling in there. You can kind of see this one all the way out towards January 8th and 9th as well. Might be packing a punch also. So we'll monitor those systems as we go. It doesn't look like any region-wide windstorm just yet, but it could be one of those low pressure systems packs a punch and drives right into the coastline somewhere between western BC all the way down through Oregon. We'll continue to watch that. Models on the or at least the GFS has backed off a little bit on that, but it was showing some very potent low pressure systems. And the European still shows that potential as well. And the GFS shows the potential, just kind of backed off on the strength of the storms. Now taking a look at total snow Kachura ratio in inches. So let's go ahead and scroll ahead here and just look off into the future. And then here goes the system on Friday night into Saturday morning. You can see the snow kind of piling up here along the Cascades. The Rocky Mountains getting in on some of that action as well. And we scroll on in through next week. And hopefully that the storm train just keeps rolling these cold lows into the Pacific Northwest. And you can see some pretty impressive snowfall amounts across a lot of the Cascade Mountains here. As we go off towards hour 240, almost 10 days out, you can see we could get some impressive totals coming in here, and we really need it here because, like I said, El Nino can cut things off pretty quick, and we can get pretty yeah, we can warm up quite nicely here. As you guys know, if you've been watching my El Nino videos, we tend to be very warm here as we go through February, March, and April across the Pacific Northwest during strong El Ninos. Now, taking a look at total snow on yesterday afternoon's European. So just do something similar here and just kind of scroll through here, just kind of marvel at the potential here with some big snowfall amounts across the higher terrain. Now we're scrolling on in through here next week, and you can clearly see some big totals showing up across much of the Pacific Northwest. So hopefully we can take advantage of this pattern change. Now this is looking at 500 millibars, and we're looking at any potential for lowland snows. This is for Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, and you can see that cooler air here, but you want things about 528 or lower. So it's not a great signal here for lower elevation snowfall. Some of the very craziest ensemble members do have that potential, but you can see the mean and the control run generally are not showing potential for lower elevation snowfall for places like into Seattle or Portland. It's always a better chance for maybe some of like Southwest BC. We'll see how it unfolds, and we'll break these systems down day by day. And especially once I get home, you know, it's a little bit easier to do, look at a little bit more data when I'm at my much better setup when I'm at home. But anyway, you can kind of see that here we do have some colder air around, but right now it's not showing great chances for lower elevation snowfall. You can see the GFS. Once you go out a little bit further, the 06Z run actually has some cooler air trying to move in here, but you can see the deterministic run is actually on the outlier, the low side here, and you can see the mean and the ensembles there kind of not in agreement with that very cold air here. But it's worth watching. You know, if things line up just right, maybe we can squeeze some lower elevation snowfall for some areas of the Pacific Northwest. Now we're looking at Alaska. Here's BC, there's Washington, there's Oregon. Here we're looking at 850 millibar temperatures. We're looking at temperature anomaly. So I'm going to put this into motion, and we're going to see as we go on in through Friday, you can see some of that cooler air start to move across the Gulf of Alaska and the Pacific Northwest. You see some Arctic air moving around across British Columbia here in Alberta, but it doesn't get too much into western BC. As you can see, we need it to really sag south across British Columbia here to get some of this colder air down into western Washington, Oregon, or southwest BC. A lot of that kind of stays east of the Rockies, as you can see, but we do have enough cold air to definitely get the mountain snow machines going here. And then as we go into the future, you can kind of see the GFS hinting at some of that Arctic air trying to spill out into British Columbia right now. But generally, we need more of it here, and this is just not that favorable of a setup. But we will watch it, you know. Who knows? We'll see how that trends here. We're still looking off into the future a little bit more. And then you can kind of see that Arctic air threat, you know, mainly out over some of central Canada there, driving down into the lower 48, but staying east of the Rockies, so the very extended forecast there. Now, taking a look at the jet stream here. So we've got Japan back to the left. We got the Hawaiian Islands here. There's Washington State. Put it into motion. You can see that storm system there moving across the west coast as we speak. Then we start to go out. Now I'm having a little bit of trouble looking at that. Okay, so now you can see we've got the next system that's going to be driving in through the Pacific Northwest, some colder air aloft. That's to get the mountain snows going. But now I want you to look at the jet stream out here. So you can see that once it's kind of retracted back here. Remember how we were talking about the jet extension moving all the way out? So you can see we're going to get that jet retraction here, and that's kind of what's giving us the chance for this colder scenario to develop here across Pacific Northwest. That would not be a bad trough here as we go out towards next week here. It's not a promise of lowland snow or anything, but then as we scroll up into the future, you can see the jet stream start to move back across the Pacific Ocean a bit more here, more of an El Nino signature here. So El Nino would be kind of shutting things down, and that would keep any troughing further off to our west here, more ridging for the Pacific Northwest, and a little bit of warmer flow here, kind of more typical of El Nino. So that's what I mean when El Nino can kind of come around and shut things down. Now, taking a look at Mount Baker, you can see some impressive totals as we go out towards, the mid portions of January. I mean, talking about the mean and the control showing 40+ inches, so 3+ feet. We'll take it. Maybe some locally higher amounts out there as well. Crystal Mountain, something similar there also. Nice mean totals here, as you can see, and you can see the deterministic one actually on the low side there as well. So yeah, hopefully some nice mountain snows are incoming here. 6 to 10 day precipitation probability outlook through January 11th there, and you can see much of the west included through January 11th, especially the southwest here, but it does include the Pacific Northwest. But anyway, yeah, I should be back home tomorrow. We'll take a little bit more detailed look at things then, and we'll break things down. As always, we'll continue to watch that Arctic air up north. Doesn't look great for any kind of lowland snow events as of right now, but things can still change, although it is an El Nino year, and my confidence is not high that that Arctic air will drive down into British Columbia and bring us a lowland snow event here. But, you never know. I've always got my fingers crossed. I'm always personally hoping for lowland snow. I love it. It's one of my favorite weather features here. But anyway, yeah, I've been under the weather here for most of the trip out here. What a time to get the flu, huh? I tested negative for COVID out there, but it's been interesting to see in some of my comments on both channels here about people that have had the same symptoms of me, and it's been lasting for several days and whatnot. So hopefully I don't have to go on antibiotics or anything and it doesn't turn into pneumonia or whatnot. But yeah, anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. We'll do this again tomorrow. It'll be good to get home and kind of be able to sleep in my own bed and probably relax a little bit more even. And maybe, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. But hopefully you guys are getting over your colds if you got them too as well out there. And anyway, we'll do this again tomorrow. I hope you guys are having a good day, and I'll talk to you guys then.